Oh, that's impossible to. That's just a ridiculous question.
Welcome to Dial In for Movies. We are a film and TV podcast based in Toronto. My name is Kadija. This is my co-host Olivia. It's such a pleasure to chat with you today.
Hi, Kadija. Hi, Olivia. Nice to meet you both.
Yes, very nice to meet you. Congratulations on the show. Your work often explores power and complex historical figures. Mussolini is a bold and very timely choice, I would say. I'm curious what drew you to him as a subject, especially now. Like, was there a particular moment or idea that made you say, like, I have to tell this story?
Uh, yeah, I guess you know, I was interested in trying to understand what fascism was, and where it came from. With with Brexit in 2016, and then the emergence of that word sort of back in our general consciousness. I felt like I didn't really understand it, honestly, and I felt like it was a responsibility of mine to unpack it. So when Lorenzo Mieli, the great Italian producer, came to me and talked to me about doing this show, I jumped at it. Originally, he asked me just to do the first two episodes, and in the end, I wanted to do the whole thing.
Was there any like particular image or diary entry, quote, or event that unlocked the core of Mussolini's character for you as a director?
I think the story that his wife tells about the first time they slept together, how he came into the house and basically took her by force, um, unlocked this idea for me that fascism, in my mind, became the politicization of toxic masculinity. And that unlocked for me the whole kind of multi-layered idea of the show, that it's not just about sort of, national politics, but it's also about personal uh, politics, or personal kind of endeavors, or shadows.
Luca Marinelli is such a remarkable actor. Could you share what it was like collaborating with him to embody such a complex figure? And did he bring any unexpected insights or nuances to the role?
Every day he brought something unexpected and new, and that's the kind of actor I love working with. Actors who take on board what I'm defining as the the point of the story in any given scene, and then build on that, to create something beyond my wildest dreams. He's an incredibly imaginative actor, and he has this kind of wild, wonderful physicality to him, and this sort of fierce humor, and also rage, which he doesn't have in normal life at all. But it came out in this role. He was brought up anti vehement anti-fascist. His all his family, and that history in Italy is very, very much alive, still running through the generations. And so for him, it was quite an undertaking to play this role.
We're big fans of your work. You've always had a very strong sense of visual storytelling from the almost fluid camera work in Atonement and the grand theatricality of Anna Karenina with Mussolini, Son of a Century. How did you develop that kind of distinct visual language or work with your DOP to express the rise of fascism and like the myth making around Mussolini himself?
Well, I guess it starts with looking. I always think about my mum, who was a sort of painter on the side. You know, she did other things for a living, but she also painted, and she always said that 90% of painting was looking, which I kind of carried with me in terms of really, I guess, research and looking at the cultural movements of the time, and in Italy in the early 20s, there's a movement called Futurism, which was all about the mechanization of the First World War and daily life, and it was about speed and dynamism and violence, a lot of it. And they were actually aligned with the fascists at the beginning. They split off at a certain point, but so I was kind of looking at a lot of their stuff and thinking about how to convey that sense of energy, kinetic energy for a modern audience, which led me to the choice of using the Chemical Brothers for the music.
Mm-hmm.
You started out in TV with things like Bodily Harm and Charles II, but Son of the Century is your first big return back to the small screen in a while. What made you want to come back to TV, and did it feel any different, especially with the way that TV and film kind of have blurred together lately?
Yeah, it felt very different from I mean, when I was doing TV at the beginning of my career, I hadn't done any TV for like 20 years or something. And so, and television's changed a lot. When I was doing TV, it was, for the BBC, and you get maybe, $3 million dollars to make a 4-hour TV show. And so the budgets are higher and the expectations are higher too. But I didn't really think of it as a TV, as opposed to a movie. It's pretty much for me the same thing. It was just like a very, very, very long movie. The response is interesting. The difference in response is interesting. And one of the scary things for me is that people, who don't necessarily watch all 8 episodes, don't get what I'm doing. If you stopped watching episode 4, for instance, you'd think that Mussolini was a bit of a hero. He was winning, and he was, he'd done the March on Rome, and things were going great. And so I think the first half of the show is quite a different tone to the second half, which slides into something far more horrific. And so that alarms me a little bit, the way in which people watch it.
You've done some pretty epic historical projects so far, like Darkest Hour and now with Mussolini, and it seems like you enjoy diving into these big moments in history. I'm curious if you could pick any historical time or event to explore as a project next. What would it be?
I'm fascinated by Patrice Lumumba, and that story. I did a play about Patrice, at the Young Vic in London. So that's sort of a figure that I'm fascinated by. I'm also really interested in Rasputin. I kind of that character is always been of interest to me, but unfortunately, I'm not a writer. And so it also depends on what the writers I work with want to do.
To talk about your biggest work, Pride and Prejudice. It's like 20 years old, which is crazy. I actually watched it for the first time just a few months ago when it was re-released in theaters, and it like blew me away. The visuals, the romance, the subtle emotional depth. Over time, it's really grown into a cult favorite, especially with young women who discovered it years after its original release, much like myself. How do you feel about the film's lasting impact, and did you ever expect it to connect with a whole new generation like this?
No, I mean, it's kind of crazy, uh when I was working in television prior to Pride and Prejudice, I was making sort of gritty British realist political drama. And I imagined that that's what I would always make. And then for some crazy reason, Working Title offered me Pride and Prejudice, and I was sort of shocked, and I engaged with it, on a very sort of personal level, but I was really it's odd the way in which life takes you, and I never would have thought that film would be such a defining one for me, and have such a wonderful legacy. I'm immensely proud of it, but no, I mean it still strikes me as being odd.
And finally, since our podcast is called Dial M for Movies, we've got a fun segment we like to play called Movie Speed Dial. We'll give you a category and you just give us the first movie that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right. A movie you dial up when you need a good laugh.
Superbad.
Love it.
That's a good one.
A movie you dial up that's lesser known but a personal favorite.
Le Prophet by or Un Prophet, sorry. Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. A movie you dial up that was released in the last year or two.
Oh my God. Emilia Perez. I liked Emilia Perez.
A movie you dial up that is a go-to from your favorite director.
I don't have a favorite director. There's so many directors that I love, and it's like, I don't know. To go way back, I guess I love David Lean and Brief Encounter.
Amazing choice.
Yeah, that's a good one. A movie you dial up with a score or soundtrack that you could listen to on repeat.
2001: Space Odyssey.
Great choice.
Yeah.
A movie you dial up that's based on a book that you've read.
Oh, Unbearable Lightness of Being.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. A movie you dial up when you need a good cry.
Princess Iroko. Is it called Iroko? Do you know the one I mean? It's the Studio Ghibli.
Mononoke?
Mononoke, yeah. That's right.
Excellent choice. And then finally, a movie that's your all-time favorite and you'll stick by no matter what.
Oh, that's impossible to That's just a ridiculous question.
Okay, what is it today? It can change, but today.
Okay. Today it would be Taxi Driver.
Excellent choice.
Solid choice. Yeah.
Solid. Okay. Solid. I mean, it's not like, but it's, yeah.
Always there.
If we were to ask you tomorrow, what would it be? Just throwing one out there.
If you were to ask me tomorrow, it might be it might be, it's really hard. I guess it might be Lorraine Margot. I love that film.
Okay.
Have you ever seen it?
I don't think so.
Okay, watch Lorraine Margot. It's like a big, beautiful French sort of passionate, deeply passionate history romance.
Okay.
Madness and betrayal, and it's just amazing. It's really long as well, which I love. You can really sort of draw the curtains and get into it.
We're selling it well. I think I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, I know.
It's an
adding it to my
amazing
watch
movie.
list.
It's with Isabella Adjani and
I'm already sold. Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Joe. It was wonderful talking to you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.